All right, Generation Ziglar community, I want to welcome everyone to the call this week. I'm very excited about having you guys with you. I want to go ahead and apologize in advance for my voice. There's something in the air. It's allergies. I've had a pretty bad cough and congestion for the last week. It is not COVID, because I did go get checked out because I am interacting with a lot of people. So I just wanted to be checked out. And there was a drugstore not too far from me, CVS, that had free testing. So I went and got tested this weekend, and the results came back and said, nothing is happening with you. So you are safe. So yay for, for that for me. Today I'm extremely excited about this. Generation Ziglar started about 4 years ago, and before we started our program, I wanted to call people who I felt were experts in student leadership, who knew things about student leadership going on and could help us. And our guest today, Mr. Rhett Laubach, was one of the very first people that I reached out to. Rhett is from Oklahoma. He is a youth specialist, youth leadership specialist. One of the most fabulous presenting trainers that I've seen. He does a great job with the Stand and Deliver program in the state of Oklahoma that I hope we can get to him to share some of that about as well. So I'm excited for you. I know a lot of you are on this call specifically because you are fans of him. And a lot of you have texted me and said that you were going to be on the Facebook call because you were fans of him as well, and the things he does. So Rhett, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliments, by the way. Glad you don't have COVID. Glad that we won't catch COVID while we're on this call with you. And I'm excited to see everybody. I'm excited. What have we got? 4 hours today? That is generous. That is so nice.
We got everybody as long as the recording will last.
I will run out of things to say in about 20 minutes. So it'll be a long Simon and Garfunkel song. Although I don't know if Generation Ziglar knows the connection between silence and the Simon and Garfunkel, but you and I are old enough to know. I see the gray in your hair.
Yes, quite a bit. Yeah. On the sides there, which there are some people. Pride. I was checking to see. I don't see them today, but there are some people who get on the call who pick on me about my gray hair and like to talk about it, and they're not on the call today. So I'm grateful for that. They are not picking on the call, and I'm sure. Oh, yes, I did. I got someone who just texted me about it. I'm watching on Facebook, and I can see your gray hair there. So thank you to the audience who does that. I appreciate that.
Exactly.
No, on that. So, Rhett, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to our audience for those who may not know you.
Sure. Yeah. Name is Rhett Laubach. It's been my name my whole life. I was born on the day of my birth in a village in northwest Oklahoma, town of about 900 people. Grew up on a farrow to finish hog operation, about 200 sows, about 2,000 head. I was born in the early 70s. Far northwest Oklahoma. Graduated with 36 people from Laverne, Oklahoma. My dad was an ag teacher, and so I've been around FAFA, as you pronounce it, in case you guys didn't know, since I was a fetus, and I've been around that my entire life. Had the opportunity to serve 2 years as a state FFA officer in Oklahoma back in the early 90s. Went to Oklahoma State University, go Pokes. Graduated agricultural economics in 1996. Went to work for OSU for just a couple of years until I could build my speaking business full time, which I did in 1999. And so I've been speaking since the age of 2, but have been doing it professionally since 1999, all the way up until about the second week of March. And I've been unemployed since then. So thank you, COVID-19. You know, when you work at social gatherings, this is obviously a very difficult time, even more in terms of employment. So thank God for many things, but thank God for Zoom. So I've had the opportunity to be able to share my message and still train folks over the last couple of months. Actually, my first speaking gig in person is next week in the state of Georgia. I go to Georgia every year to train their state FFA officers. 3 days, morning, noon, and night, we spend working on their facilitation skills. And so we passed through all of the filters where it was safe for everyone, all of the 8 state officers and the 2 state leaders there, state staff. One of them I've known since he was in 8th grade. Ben Lafley is the Georgia FFA executive secretary, executive director, whatever his official title is. He actually didn't grow up in Oklahoma, grew up in Texas, but since he was in middle school, was an Okie, and then followed the same path as I did, graduated high school, made it to Oklahoma State, served as state officer, and now he's in the upper ups. So I'm excited to go to Georgia next week to actually do. You remember, guys, when we used to get together for events? You remember that? Those were the good old days, right? That was awesome. So got 3 offspring. They're all female. They've been female their entire life. Live in Edmond, Oklahoma, which is just north of Oklahoma City. I was born naked. I love to golf. I'm a professional speaker, James. I have hubris that is beyond the size of a room, right? I really like the sound of my voice. I'll just say one more thing and then we'll get to your questions. Magical night on Saturday night of this past weekend. Married a young woman named Cheney. Just had a tremendous COVID-free night. About 40 of us. My 3 daughters there are 15, 13, and 9. My folks who are sniffing their 80s. And then obviously Cheney's folks, and man, she just looked so gorgeous, and we just had just a tremendous evening. It was just good to get out. I mean, my toast that I gave at the end, when you cut the cake and then the groom gives the toast, was ended with, we're just excited that we gave everybody an opportunity to get out of the house, right? But I've spent the last 4 days with Cheney. Her and I went out to Oregon, my second favorite O state. If there's anyone from Ohio on the call, my apologies, or watching on Facebook. But I go to Oregon every year to work with FFA members, so I love going out there. And so we just got back from our honeymoon last night, just in time to get on and share my message with you guys. So there you go, James. That's 4.5 minutes of me.
We have at least one Oregon. We have anybody else on there? Wave if you're from Oregon that's on the call. There's one. Let's see any of the others on there. So there'll be some others that'll catch it on the replay or on Facebook as well. So, Rhett, one of the reasons that we have started these calls a while ago was really because a lot of these young people that are on this call, that attend our calls, they're so excited about wanting to help others. They want to help their peers. They want to be a positive impact, but this has really thrown them in a loop. They don't know how to do it anymore. We're struggling as professionals on how to do it. Those who are just starting out, they're going to struggle even more. What are some of the things that you would recommend to them about how they can manage themselves better so they can lead folks more positively?
Well, I've been teaching leadership since I was a state FFA officer pre-birth for everybody on this call except for you and me. Back in 1991, and what I've learned over the years, and just a little context, I was on 125 airplanes last year, and so I'm on 100 to 125 stages every year teaching leadership, half to student leaders, the other half to professionals. And there's really 2 big buckets where we have the opportunity to serve and lead. One of them is in our public domain, right? So whatever my job is, whatever my whether that be as an employed professional, or whether that be as for the context of most of the folks that are listening and they're on the call, an elected student leadership position, right? That's one bucket, and that's where we really have to be getting creative, right? As many folks have. I mean, I'm on the virtual streams of Insta and of Twitter and of LinkedIn and of Facebook. I don't do TikTok or Snapchat because I'm a 46-year-old man. Okay. But, so I've seen all the virtual versions of, for example, the state FFA conventions, right? And so that's where we get creative and where we say, all right, here was the old ways where we had the opportunities to publicly serve and lead. And I'm even in conversations, matter of fact, next week at Camp John Hope, James, in Georgia, with this state FFA officer team. We're going to be spending a lot of time talking about how do we facilitate our chapter officer leadership training that's supposed to be the second week of July in person. How do we lead that virtually? And these state officers are going to be digging their toes in, right? I mean, they're going to be just like Maddie, smells like potatoes right now. She was working potatoes all morning, right? These officers are going to smell like hard work because they're going to be digging in, trying to come up with solutions about how we can do the public leadership events, conferences, whatever, in a virtual way. And so that's the key there, is say, let's not whine and complain. Let's recognize the challenges. Let's get to brainstorming the solution. But the other genre, James, is really what matters most. And the other genre is in the private domain, right? The private domain is leadership starts with your personal relationship. And the personal relationships, those you have more opportunity and have had more opportunity to lead and to serve, because even now we've really figured out how much we like our roommates, or like or don't like our parents, or our siblings, or our offspring, right? Because we've just had this explosion of all this extra time. And so the quick billboard answer summary of the public domain is figure out how you can solve the problem of going public to virtual, and then come up with the best that you can to still serve. In the private domain, it is invest more in the personal relationships. And I read a Facebook post yesterday morning, actually, James, from the wife of the state president, who was my first year as a state FFA officer. So in Oklahoma, when you're state president, that means you serve 2 years as an officer. The state president always comes off team before, and his name is Brent Kissling. His wife Jennifer posted a celebration of their 25th wedding anniversary, and she said the secret to a good marriage is to wake up every morning and to think, what can I do today to make my spouse's day better? That's leadership in a private, personal relationship, right? And COVID has nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, that is every day, all the time. It just so happens that now we've dipped those private, personal relationships in Red Bull and supercharged them because of all of the extra time that we're spending.
I see a lot of the folks taking notes and stuff. Does anyone have a question they want to ask Rhett before I go to my next question? Anyone want to unmute themselves and jump in with a question?
Yeah, I'll go. I have one. How will our role as leaders look different once everything opens back up and COVID-19's kind of gone and we've come up with a solution to it?
Well, Jake, where are you from, buddy?
Texas.
Yeah. Well, it's a small state, so we're from in Texas.
Centerville, Texas. So more east central Texas.
Okay. Yeah, Centerville. I would have guessed east. How far from Tyler, Texas are you?
We're about 2 hours.
Okay. So that's close in Texas terminology. Yeah. Jake, I think that one of the best answers to that, because there's 1,000 different answers, but again, back to a social media post that I saw just recently, was about wearing face masks, right? Because this transition time is what you're talking about. How do we manage as a leader the transition time back? And we're steeped in the transition time right now. I saw, and actually the social media post, Jake, was just a link to a research, a researcher who had posted an article in like New York Times or CNN or something. And the point of that about face masks, Jake, was if you see someone that's not wearing a face mask, basically what they're thinking is, well, I'm strong enough, I'm healthy enough, I'm going to stay away from people enough where I don't need the face mask. But in actuality, what they are saying is, I don't care about other people. Because of how COVID-19 works, and it's so stealthy. It's a mastermind in espionage. Bonus points if you can type in the chat what artist or what song that line is from. That would be an indication that you're really redneck. But COVID-19 is a mastermind in espionage, in that you don't really know if you got it or not until it could be 4 weeks down the road, right? And so what Jake has to do is Jake has to say, how am I helping others in my behavior and my attitudes, as well as helping myself? And wearing face masks is a great example of that. Did I want to wear a face mask all day yesterday, Jake? When I showed up at the Portland, Oregon airport and Cheney showed up with me, we were still happily married on day 4, right? No. Did I want to wear it all day long until we landed in Oklahoma City last night at 7:30? Absolutely not. Dude, it's 101 degrees here in Oklahoma today, right? But do I think that I have COVID? No. Do I know for actuality? Absolutely not, right? I mean, you never know what you're going to get when you go to Oregon. Those people are crazy, right? But you see what I'm saying, Jake? What you got to do as you're transitioning back as a leader is say, how can I help others as well as help myself? But how are my attitude and behaviors impacting others in this time of transition that's so full of so much unknown? I mean, I've got every event for the rest of my calendar almost, except for next week, written, and the virtual ones written in pencil. And am I throwing a fit about that? Am I calling the clients every day saying, when are we going to move these to a firm event? Absolutely not. I don't want to put that pressure on them, right? That's me being a leader saying, I've got to have a mindfulness of putting others first and myself second, but you got to take care of you as well, Jake. That doesn't mean that you don't hurt your engine. Just in terms of in the motive of trying to help other people, right?
That answer your question, Jake?
Yes.
What you said, talking about hurting yourself, and you and I've talked a little bit about the stress that everyone is going through now. What are ways they can help manage themselves a little bit better so that they can be that stress, not have to deal with that stress?
Hey, don't let me forget to answer that, James, but I saw Carolyn's hand up a few
Okay.
moments ago before Jake and I had our moment. So let me point right at everybody. And Carolyn, what is your question, please?
I just wanted to ask, how can we stay positive during this time?
Well, I firmly believe that old sage line of, difficult times don't build character, they reveal character, right? I believe that it really has a lot to do with what your foundation has been, Carolyn, up to this point. Okay. If you've been someone that your source of positive feelings and positive attitudes is really been in a foundation of stone, then COVID's got nothing on you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that you really have to step back and say, if I feel like that I am in a place where where my negative attitude is impacting my behavior, then that's where I have to step back and say, okay, now I really need to say, what have I been looking to help me be positive up to this point? And that's what I need to make adjustments to. And I do not want to give you some type of Hallmark greeting card answer, Carolyn, because that's not what I do, right? What the answer has to do with is what has been your sources, because your sources are different than Elizabeth's, right? Now, I've known Elizabeth a long time, right? And hi, Elizabeth. I just saw you there. Good to see you. And you tell Nancy that I've got her number 2 on my to-do list today. All right, just tell her that. Actually, it's you probably more than her. But so if Elizabeth's positive, her source of positive feelings and attitudes has been grounded in something that has been meaningful and strong, then that's going to be revealed through this. And you're the same way, right? And Mike is the same way. And if you feel like that your negative, if you're having a negative attitude, is impacting your behavior, you see the connection there? If you're taking notes, write that down. I can have a negative attitude, but if it's not impacting my behavior, then it doesn't have meaning. It's cotton candy. It's going to go away. My positive attitude is still in control of my behavior. That's what you really want to stay focused on. But if my negative attitude, my positive attitude has been taken over by my negative attitude and it's impacting my behavior, then I got to say, what have I been looking to? If I've been looking to a friendship that really isn't a strong friendship, or have I been looking to my faith? Have I been looking to my family? Have I been looking to a meaningful friendship? I've been looking to positive, meaningful work that I do, right? And has that been my sources of my positive attitude that has been flooded over to my behavior? And if that's true, then you just got to stay focused on that, right? You just got to stay focused on that. Great question.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah,
to
Elizabeth wants to know why I haven't gotten to the to-do item yet. You text Nancy right now.
No.
Literally yesterday on the airplane between, I believe it was Phoenix, where it was like 168 degrees yesterday, and Oklahoma City. I turned it to a to-do list. On the very top of my list is A to the F to the A. So anyway, any other questions?
Well, thanks. I do have a question, if I can ask you, Rhett, after that. So for context, I guess here is I have the responsibility of leading a few teams, and something that our organization really prioritizes is vulnerability. And right now, vulnerability is very real, but I have a balance of wanting to be vulnerable with them and being authentic with them about challenges that this is bringing me, the current time of the world, but also being the strong face and the strong leader. What's your advice on balancing that?
Well, hold on a second. Didn't think we were going to get this deep on this call, but we're there, so we might as well go there, right? So at some point, if anyone on the call who hasn't already done this does this, you may get married. And when you get married, you have the opportunity to write your own vows, which I had the opportunity to, and so did Cheney, and we both took advantage of the opportunity. Then we both, then I wrote, upon a suggestion from someone, a set of private vows that was just for Cheney and I, that I said to her. But to answer your question, at least to begin to answer your question, Elizabeth, one of the lines in the public vows, meaning the ones that I gave at the ceremony on Saturday night, one of the lines that I said to Cheney is, and I'm finding it in I promise to work hard for you and Kyler and Vivian and Addison and Emerlyn. Those are the offspring. I promise to work for us. Here's the point. I promise to be vulnerable. That's how meaningful what her question is about, everyone on the call and everyone that's watching on Facebook. It doesn't make it into a set of vows unless it really has a lot of weight to it. I promise to be vulnerable and be okay. Okay, I be okay with sharing my fears, my weaknesses, my shortcomings, my pains with you. I promise to listen. The key line in the answer to your question, Elizabeth, is I promise to be okay with sharing those with you. You see, it's not so much about, do I share my vulnerabilities? Do I share my fears or weaknesses, particularly someone that has the experience in the team environment, particularly with AFA, and that's the organization, everyone on the call listening, that Elizabeth just recently, I mean, literally you can measure it in the length of days, right? That she's taken a wonderful position with AFA out of Kansas City. Your experience, you're going to be able to measure how much I should share and how much I shouldn't share, right? I mean, I trust that you have that filter in there. And to everyone on the call that you're like, well, I don't have that filter yet. Well, it takes experience to know. Again, I can't give Carolyn a Hallmark greeting card answer to how do I stay positive. That's not fair to her, right? It's everybody's personal experience. It depends. I just can give you a way to where you can get to that point, right? And so anyone that feels like you don't have a filter yet of how much should I share, well, you just have to get out there and get experience. You can't read a book about playing tennis and then go out and play tennis. It doesn't work that way, right? But the key line for you, Elizabeth, is you just got to be okay with sharing it. And it's difficult for leaders to do that, right? You want to be strong. You want to be like, nothing will get to me, right? But then all you are, and metaphorically, is someone walking through the Phoenix airport without a freaking face mask on, right? That's not about how strong that person is. That's about how they're not okay with, I need to help protect others, right? They're not okay with sharing, well, I may have it, so I need to wear it. So I think that's what you really want to pay attention to and keep your eye on, is how are you doing with that relationship between sharing your fears and sharing your vulnerabilities and sharing that with your team. And I'll tell you this, and everybody else is listening. There's nothing almost more that leaders respect than another leader sharing a fear that they have and being genuine about it, right? There's almost nothing more, because powerful people respect other people being powerful, and being vulnerable and being okay with being vulnerable is a very powerful thing. So there you go.
I like that comment, that powerful leaders respect other people and being vulnerable. I think leaders also can sense when people are faking.
Oh, yeah. All day in a bag of chips, my man. Absolutely. But that's where it goes back to the experience, right? That's where it goes back to the more experience you get, the more that you can tell. I mean, my wife Cheney, she's got an 18-year-old son. His name is Kyler. Oh, she can tell when a man or boy is lying to her. Oh, I got nothing. Right? I mean, she almost, whenever I said that in the vow, she was like, trust me, brother, I'll be able to tell. All right. I'll be able to tell. You don't have to promise to me. I got that. Right. But anyway, yeah, absolutely. My speaking skills blog that I had for years, I got up to about 200 posts, was called Authenticity Rules. Authenticity Rules. That's how, if we just want to jump over for a second to the facilitation and speaking skills training side of my work, that's how meaningful and how powerful being genuine and authentic is. It literally was I titled, I had 7 authenticity rules about how to help your audience know, no matter the size, even in a virtual world, right? How to help the audience know that you know what you're talking about, and more importantly, that you believe in what you're talking about, right? I mean, I can't fake my celebration of Elizabeth this morning and this afternoon, this morning for the people still on the West Coast, but I can't fake that, right? And I don't have to fake that, because that's genuine, right? but that authenticity is so absolutely powerful, which is one of the challenges of training FFA state officers, right? Especially in states like Oklahoma, where you only get elected to being a state officer if you are pressed and polished and you've got quarter and Roy just looking sharp.
Right.
Well, a challenge with that is, you're too pressed and polished, right? As a matter of fact, one of the things that we have to do whenever I work with state officer teams, like next week, is some of those state officers think, well, I'm really experienced, I don't need this facilitation training. You got to just peel away all this starch. It's like they're going out to dance and they got their boots and their button down and their cowboy hat ready and their jeans ready, and those jeans have just been starched for hours. You can't even get your legs in them, right? I mean, so you got to strip all that away to get underneath to the human. It's absolutely important.
And that's important for us to relate, because that's a skill of being authentic, and vulnerable that you and I were not taught when we came through the FFA. No one was sharing that with us when we were state officers and working for
Right.
National FFA. No one was sharing with us about how to really connect. We got a couple of folks on here who are part of our, 3 or 4 people on here who are part of our youth certification program. And so they'll tell you one of the concepts that we talk about was it's more important to connect effectively than it is to communicate effectively. And in that,
Absolutely.
John Maxwell wrote a book several years ago, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And it's that same thing. Can you let folks know that you care enough about them when you're talking to them and when you're sharing with them going forward? Who else has a question that's related to this before we move on? Anyone else have a question they want to ask? As I'm scrolling through my feed here. Well, let's stay on that topic then, on how do we communicate, because that seems to be a theme that this group seems to want to stay with and stuff. How do we connect better with our audience? How can we be authentic in what we're doing?
Well, that's a great question. Glad you asked it. Let me pull back up some notes. So I thought that we might start talking about this a little bit. I'm going to type a few things in the chat box. If you're on the Facebook page, you got that in front of you. James, you may want to type this in there, but we can also say it out loud with our mouths. I've got a couple of URLs that are just, I know, that are just full of tips. This first one I'm typing into the chat box is, and I'm going to say it out loud for those on Facebook and for the recording, because I know the chat box log doesn't get to the recording. tinyurl.com, and everybody that's listening and watching right now, write this down. tinyurl.com, that's TINY url.com / that's a line leaning to the right. Don't ask me why I have to explain that. Epic speaking tips. All right. Epic speaking tips. tinyurl.com / epic speaking tips. Now I'm just going to go ahead and type in the second one here, James, and then I'll answer your question. tinyurl.com, same start of it, all the way to the / epic life lessons. So tinyurl.com / is the first of both URLs. The first one I gave was epic speaking tips. Second one was epic life lessons. Now, when you go to the second one, epic life lessons, and you type that into your browser, it's just going to pull up a bunch of basically photos that have lessons that I've taught over the years. And I think it's up to 83 now. And it just so happens that the first 3 are my top lessons on time management, stress management, and then a little insights into some more time management. Now, again, these are just quick, 5 or 6 words per line. So it's obviously not going to go very deep in the epic life lessons. That's just a quick browser. But the first one, the epic speaking tips, if you type that into a browser, I'm clicking on it right now. Man, that one is a data dump that I did a number of years back. Actually, it started at an AFA conference that they do every year up in Kansas City, their leaders conference. And it is basically almost everything that I know about how to facilitate and give presentations effectively. And so, of course, when I clicked on it, it's taken some time for it to pull up, but I can pull it up just on my Evernote. And give me just 2 seconds. This is where you need the Jeopardy music. Yeah, of course, it's not pulling up. So when you know it, it's like when your truck isn't working very well and you take it in the mechanics and then it works perfectly fine when you take it in. Yeah, that's what just happened. One way or the other, that epic speaking tips lesson, there we go, baby. So I wanted to be very in sync with my answer to you, James, with what's on there. The first question that is in that epic speaking tips data dump is what matters most to deliver an effective presentation. That's the first question. So that's basically what you're asking. How do you connect, right? That's what Dr. Maxwell is teaching. Don't just communicate, connect, right? Well, my terminology here is, well, what matters most is connecting, right? So what matters most to deliver an effective presentation? Now, the answer that I give in this epic speaking tips URL data dump is fully engage the audience now and help your great content stick later. Okay, and I'm going to type this into the chat box for those few that are engaging now. Fully engage the audience now and help your great content stick later. Okay, so what's the key words there for you, James, as you're writing that down as an experienced pro? Fully engage the audience now and help your great content stick later. What's the key words that really jump out to you that matter most?
Engage. And those who have heard me
Right.
speak a lot have heard me speak quite a bit on an engagement, that people will respond to
Right.
you and only engage if they know that you care.
Right. What else? Give me another. Fully engage the audience now and help your great content stick later.
Oh, I like
What's the
stick
second
later.
word? Stick later. Yeah. Later being the key word, right? There's only going to be a later if it's sticky, right? Son, I want to take Cheney to the El Gaucho restaurant in Portland, Oregon on Sunday night, but they're not even in phase 1 yet in Portland, Oregon, right? Phase 1 means you can now step into our place of business. They're not even there yet, right? Phase 2 is you can come in and sit down and spend some time. And then phase 3 and then beyond, right? I mean, Jake, you can't even go in and have a steak in person at El Gaucho, right? And it's attached to the hotel we were staying at. Oh, son. But what we were able to do was we were able to dial up Uber Eats, and from Morton Steakhouse, they delivered us some filet mignons that were phenomenal. And did those filet mignons and that big potato stick? Absolutely, right? Got to get some meat and potatoes. So fully engage the audience now means, and everyone write this down, no matter how you're listening, you got to be present fully in the moment. You got to be present fully in the moment. And how can you be present fully in the moment? Well, you can only be present fully in the moment if you've prepared enough, right? So that you don't have to worry about what's coming next. It's almost second nature what's coming next because you've prepared so much. So you got to be present in the moment, fully engage the audience now, but you have to know how to fully engage, right? If this were a normal virtual call, meaning, let me say what I mean by normal, James. If this were a training, okay, that I was in charge of virtually, at this point, this chat box would be, long, because I would have multiple times said, type in your favorite engagement strategy as you presented in the past. Type in where you were born. Who's your daddy? Type that in. I would have asked a ton of questions where people can type in the chat box. Then I would have said, okay, all right, hey, Caden, tell me more about yo daddy. How long has he been yo daddy? Right? I would have asked a follow-up questions. I would have multiple times said, everyone write this down. Like in the virtual world, I still leverage engagement strategies because I've got to make sure that I'm not only present and engaged in the moment, but that the audience is fully engaged in the moment now. But how you do it and the techniques that you use will determine if your content and the lessons you teach will be sticky so that the audience can easily access it and use it later, right? Because if you're teaching something, why are you teaching it if you're not helping the audience be able to access it at a later point and use it? Why are we even there? Now, I know, and this is something, James, that I'm sure you've had a lot of conversations where it involves this topic as well. To use an example, my good friend Heather Dye, who's executive secretary of the Nevada FFA, she called me last week. We go out, we being my good friend, Mr. Jonathan Kelly Barnes and I, we go out to Nevada every other year to lead her winter leadership training. Well, 2021 is our every other year, and she's just doing some pre-planning about we don't know yet if we're going to be able to do it in person. We don't know yet if it's going to be virtual. If it's going to be virtual, how are we going to do it? And the one question that both of us were really frustrated by, that we're going to take a lot of creative thought, is this: how do we recreate the networking between students and between chapters that is so powerful, right? Particularly at FFA events, but at any student organization event, any event, right? There's that networking aspect. How do you recreate that? Obviously you can't recreate the tactile part of it, which is so much, which is so powerful in terms of the stickiness of something, right? Is the tactile experience. But how do we recreate that networking experience? Because that's a very important part of the engagement. And that's where, like next week in Georgia, right? We're going to be working with those 8 state officers and Mr. Ben and Mr. Andy. And I say it like that because that's how you say it in the South. Mr. and then their first name, Mrs. and then their first name. About how do we recreate the interactiveness and the networking part of it. But that tactile experience, you just can't recreate. But when we get back to the old ways, when we actually get in-person events, that's an element that is so powerful that everybody in here knows. 1986, November 1986, downtown Kansas City. Freshman FFA member. Still remember walking in to the Vespers program that was going on at National FFA Convention. I still remember walking into that arena and just being blown away. I still remember the goosebumps. That was decades ago, right? That's like going to your first George Strait concert. Shut the front door, right? That tactile experience. Yeah.
I was there. Kobe Shorter, Rick Naylor.
Absolutely. Yeah. So But the long and short of your answer of your question, James, from me is that URL that I've put together. That list of tips and techniques, that tinyurl.com/epic speaking tips. I'm only coming back to that, not only to put a book in to my point here, but also to say, guys, this list of tips and techniques is like James saying, here is all of our secrets to the sauce. Please go forth and prosper, ask questions, email when you have. That's the time that I've dedicated into putting into that. From my family to yours, Mazel Tov. I do not share something like that lightly. All right. So I just wanted to reinforce the powerfulness of that.
Let me tell the group as well that your site, yournextspeaker.com, has great resources on it. Do you still have the icebreakers
Yes.
list on there as well?
Yes.
If you don't have it, you can
Yeah.
email me, because I have it. I have it copied and in my Dropbox and in my Evernote. I have it in several different places hidden in case one of them crashes, because I have stolen more stuff from Rhett than he will ever know. And
good. Don't tell me. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. No, it's tinyurl.com. I just typed in the chat box, but for those who can't access that, tinyurl.com/ready, set, engage. Ready, set, engage. And to build off of the labeling, it's not just icebreakers, which actually I don't believe in icebreakers. I believe that when an audience starts walking into a room and they start smelling the smell and feeling the temperature and hearing whatever they're hearing and seeing whatever they're seeing, that's whenever the ice starts breaking. When you start your presentation, you should already feel like you're in mid-conversation with them, right? Because you're already shaking hands and you're already asking questions. And I mean, if you got any of that with my good friend Dustin James Gallion, right, who's one of my best friends in the world, if you got into any of that, into any facilitation, speaking skills tips with him, I mean, he is a master at this, absolutely master at this. But it's not just activities that get people interacting. It's also, I think it's 25 to 30 activities, full instructions, PDF, full instructions that teach teamwork, communication skills, connection skills. But again, it's not just, okay, here's some that we used to use years ago. This list that James is talking about and that I'm highlighting here, the Ready, Set, Engage, where you can get the PDF, is the stuff that we use, at least used to when we got together actually in person, that we use all the time. So again, it's a gift that keeps on giving.
anyone else on our team, on our call today, have a question, as a follow-up question as we begin to close out our hour time together? Anyone wants to ask another one as we get through?
Hey,
Caden's got one.
can I ask one question real quick? So, in this virtual world, especially with new officer teams coming up, in fact, I'm about to get on a Zoom call with my officer team for the first time. How do I create that connection if I've never met them before? And this goes out to other people. Like, how do you connect to someone if you're not know them face to face? I mean, it's kind of hard to get that connection through a screen. So I was just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Where do you live, Caden?
I am from Tarboro, North Carolina.
North Carolina? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been in FFA?
About 6 years now.
6 years? Yeah. What's
Yes,
your
sir.
SAE?
My SAE? My SAE is I work at a meat packing plant, sir.
Meat packing plant.
Yes, sir. My family own it.
What's been your favorite part of working in a meat packing plant?
Definitely. I see where you're going. Definitely working with the animals and such, and just learning new livestock judging terminology.
Do you like the animals better when they're alive or when they're hanging on hooks?
Definitely when they're alive, but it's a good feeling once they're on the hooks.
Well, that's easier to handle. They don't talk back as much,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah. So, Caden, what did I just do there over the last 90 seconds?
You just connected right there.
And how did I connect?
You just continue to ask questions and and branch off.
Ask questions, and then more importantly, ask what?
More questions.
Not just more questions,
Follow up.
follow-up questions.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. And I learned a lot about you just in that short 9 seconds. Now I know on your call with your ops team, you're gonna have how many of those regional officers?
I believe there's 7 of us total.
7 of. Okay. So you plan time, you plan important time to get to know, and with 7 faces, you can do that same thing. And if you feel like you don't have enough time for that, then leverage the chat box. Okay. Everyone right now, type in, and this is to everyone. This isn't, an example of Kate. Everyone right now, type in, if you could eat one thing and only one thing for the rest of your life, what would that one thing be? Ready? Go. Everyone type in the chat box. Okay. Lobster. Yes. Steak. Let's go, baby. I was more specific. Ribeye. Bacon cheeseburger. Strawberries. Mac and cheese with ham. Go pork. It is the white meat. Steak, bacon. All right. Okay. Very good. Ice cream. Why not? Okay. Salmon with lemon. Oh, an aristocrat. Very nice. Okay. So see what I did right there, Caden? Boom. That was like 20 seconds. I learned a lot. Plus, I could ask follow-up questions. Hey, Carolyn, why with lemon? Why can't you just take salmon by itself? Is it not good enough for you? It's got to have lemon. Does it pull the flavor out? Now, don't answer that, Carolyn, but okay, you see what I'm doing here, Caden? So I'm leveraging the power that I have of the software. I'm getting to know them, and then that helps me to ask follow-up questions that now I feel like that now it's time. Those are soft introductory questions. Now I have everyone type in, what's your biggest fear as you're entering into your officer year? And you type in one first, okay? What are you most looking forward to as an officer? What's your expectations of our call today? You see, so I start with soft questions, like if you could have one thing to eat, just to get them, right, interacting. Then I get to meaningful questions that will help you in your virtual meeting that you're going to have in just a few moments. All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, Caden, you can also go back to last week. You remember Phil, who was with us last week? He talked about sharing what a win is, what a wish that you have, and what a worry that you have.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have the outline of my call just over there, and that's actually on the call to do. So yes, sir. Definitely.
Good. Yeah. Phil Tiberius Boyd is one of the wisest individuals that I've ever met. Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys got to spend some time with him. Well, good luck with your call, Caden.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Rhett, how can this group reach out to you, get in touch with you, learn more about you, connect with you?
Well, my door is always open. You know, I live to serve, learn to do, doing to learn to live and serve. And so owner@yournextspeaker.com is my email inbox. It's always open. And then they can just go from there. yournextspeaker.com is my website. But just send me an email. And if you have a question, you have an opportunity you think I can help with, that would be the best way to do it, James. I appreciate you asking that.
Well, thank you, guys. Everybody, I'm going to put you on gallery view. I want everybody to wave. Say thank you. Everybody wave. Thank you. All right, Generation Ziglar, we got 3 more weeks of calls coming up in the month of June. We're going to take July off because I'll be traveling some, and then we'll have something really special for the second half of the year that you're really going to enjoy, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. That's called teasing you so that you come back for more. So look for an announcement tomorrow on next week's guest as well, and a special call that we'll do Monday night as well. You'll see some information on that. Thank you, everybody, for being on the call today. Bye.